I need to tell you something about Scorpio women that most people completely miss. And honestly, once you understand what I'm about to share, you'll never look at a Scorpio woman the same way again. There's this moment that happens when you first lock eyes with a Scorpio woman. It's not like meeting anyone else. It's like she's reading something in you that you didn't even know was written there. And here's what nobody talks about that's not an accident. That penetrating gaze. That ability to see straight through your carefully constructed walls. That's her superpower. And it's just the beginning. Most people think they understand Scorpio women. They throw around words like intense, mysterious, passionate. But those are just surface descriptions. What's actually happening beneath that calm exterior is something far more complex and, honestly, far more powerful than most people are ready to handle. If you've ever felt drawn to a Scorpio woman in a way you couldn't quite explain, if you've ever wondered why she seems to operate on a completely different frequency than everyone else, or if you are a Scorpio woman and you've always felt like people don't quite get you, stay with me. Because what I'm about to reveal isn't just astrology theory. This is about understanding a force of nature that's been misunderstood for far too long. Here's what I've realized after years of studying this energy. Scorpio women aren't just another zodiac sign with a set of personality traits. They're operating in a realm that most people don't even know exists. And the reason they're so often misunderstood is because they're playing a completely different game than everyone else. You see, while most people are focused on the surface of life, on what's visible and socially acceptable, Scorpio women are diving deep into the waters that most people are too afraid to explore. They're not interested in small talk or superficial connections. They want the truth, the whole truth, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. And this creates something really fascinating. Because in a world that's increasingly focused on image, on curated perfection, on showing only the highlight reel, Scorpio women are the ones who refuse to play that game. They see through it instantly. And that makes them both incredibly attractive and slightly terrifying to people who are still hiding behind their masks. Let me share something with you that completely changed how I understand Scorpio energy. A few years ago, I was working with a client who was a Scorpio woman. Successful, intelligent, beautiful by any standard. But she came to me because she kept experiencing the same pattern in her relationships. People would be intensely drawn to her at first, almost obsessively. Then they'd pull away, saying she was too much touch, too intense, too demanding. And here's what we discovered. She wasn't actually being demanding at all. What was happening was that her natural energy, her authentic way of being, was holding up a mirror to people. And when they looked in that mirror, they saw parts of themselves they'd been avoiding. The shallow parts. The dishonest parts. The places where they were living half lives. Scorpio women don't do anything halfway. They can't. It's not in their nature. And when you're around someone who's living at that level of intensity and authenticity, it forces you to either rise to meet them or retreat back into your comfortable numbness. Most people choose the retreat. And that's why Scorpio women often end up feeling isolated, misunderstood, like they're too much for this world. But here's the truth that nobody's telling you. They're not too much. The world is too little. The world is too shallow, too afraid, too committed to staying on the surface. And Scorpio women are the ones brave enough to dive deep, even when it means diving alone. Now, I want to talk about something that's absolutely crucial to understanding Scorpio women. And this is where it gets really interesting. Scorpio is ruled by two planets, Mars and Pluto. And this dual rulership creates something unique in the zodiac. Mars gives Scorpio women their warrior energy, their courage, their ability to fight for what matters. But it's not the loud, aggressive Mars energy you see in Aries. This is Mars underwater. This is strategic warfare. This is the kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself because it's so deeply rooted that it's unshakable. Then you have Pluto, the planet of transformation, death, and rebirth. And this is where Scorpio women get their real power. Pluto energy is about going into the underworld, facing what's hidden in the darkness, and emerging transformed. It's about the willingness to let things die so that something new can be born. Think about what that means for a moment. Scorpio women are literally wired for transformation. They're not afraid of endings. They're not afraid of darkness. They understand something that most people spend their whole lives avoiding, that real growth requires death. The death of old identities, old patterns, old ways of being that no longer serve. And this is why Scorpio women often go through these intense cycles of transformation throughout their lives. They're not just changing their hair or their job. They're completely reinventing themselves from the ground up. And each time they do it, they emerge more powerful, more authentic, more aligned with their true nature. I've watched this happen over and over again. A Scorpio woman will be in a relationship, a career, a life situation that looks perfect from the outside, and then suddenly, she'll blow it all up. She'll walk away from everything. And people around her think she's crazy, self-destructive, throwing away something good. But here's what they don't understand. She's not destroying something good. She's destroying something that's no longer alive. She can feel it. That's her Plutonian superpower. She can sense when something has run its course, when the life force has drained out of it, even when it still looks fine on the surface. And she has the courage to let it die so something real can take its place. This brings me to the first major secret about Scorpio women that makes them absolutely irresistible. And this is something that goes way deeper than physical attraction or personality traits. This is about energy, about presence, about the way Scorpio women move through the world. The first secret is this: Scorpio women have mastered the art of emotional alchemy. They can take the darkest, most painful experiences and transform them into power. Not by denying the pain, not by pretending it didn't happen, but by going straight through it, feeling every bit of it, and emerging on the other side fundamentally changed. Most people run from pain. They numb it, avoid it, distract themselves from it. They build their entire lives around not feeling the uncomfortable things. But Scorpio women? They walk straight into the fire. They know that the only way out is through. And this gives them a depth of emotional intelligence that's honestly rare in this world. When you're talking to a Scorpio woman about something real, something that matters, you can feel the difference immediately. She's not just listening to respond. She's not waiting for her turn to talk. She's actually present with you in a way that most people never are. She's holding space for the full truth of your experience, including the parts you're afraid to say out loud. And this creates something magnetic. Because in a world where everyone's performing, where everyone's trying to look good and say the right things, here's someone who's actually real. Here's someone who can handle your darkness because she's already faced her own. Here's someone who won't judge you for being human because she knows exactly what that means. I remember talking to a man once who had dated a Scorpio woman. He told me that being with her was like finally being able to breathe after holding his breath his whole life. He said that with everyone else, he felt like he had to edit himself to present the acceptable version. But with her, he could just be all of him. The good, the bad, the confused, the scared. And she didn't flinch. She didn't try to fix him or change him. She just saw him, really saw him. That's the power of emotional alchemy. Scorpio women have done so much of their own inner work, have faced so many of their own demons, that they're not threatened by yours. They can sit with you in your darkness because they've learned to sit with their own. And that level of emotional maturity and fearlessness is incredibly rare and incredibly attractive. But here's where it gets even more interesting. This emotional depth isn't just about being a good listener or being empathetic. Scorpio women use this emotional intelligence strategically. They understand human psychology on an intuitive level that most people never reach. They can read between the lines, pick up on what's not being said, sense the hidden motivations and fears that doctor people's behavior. This makes them incredibly effective in any situation that requires understanding people. Whether it's in business, in relationships, in creative work, Scorpio women have this ability to get to the heart of what's really going on. They cut through the noise, the excuses, the surface explanations, and they find the truth. And once they find it, they know exactly how to work with it. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds manipulative. This sounds like Scorpio women are using their emotional intelligence to control people. And I'm not going to lie to you that shadow side exists. When Scorpio energy is operating from a wounded place, from fear or insecurity, it can absolutely become manipulative and controlling. But here's what I want you to understand. True Scorpio power isn't about control. It's about transformation. It's about using that deep understanding of human nature to help people evolve. To help them face their own shadows. To help them become more authentic versions of themselves. The highest expression of Scorpio energy is the healer, the therapist, the guide who can walk with you through your underworld journey because she's already made that journey herself. And this is why Scorpio women are often drawn to professions that involve transformation and healing. Psychology, therapy, medicine, research, investigation, any field where you're dealing with what's hidden. What's beneath the surface? What needs to be brought into the light? They're not interested in maintaining the status quo. They're interested in fundamental change. This emotional alchemy also shows up in how Scorpio women handle their own pain and trauma. And I think this is really important to understand because it's so different from how most people operate. When something painful happens to a Scorpio woman, she doesn't just try to get over it or move on. She goes into it. She examines it from every angle. She feels it completely. She lets it transform her. This can look like obsession to people on the outside. They see a Scorpio woman processing something painful and they think she's stuck, that she can't let go. But that's not what's happening. She's not stuck. She's mining. She's going deep into that experience to extract every bit of wisdom, every lesson, every piece of power that's hidden in that pain. And she won't move on until she's gotten everything she needs from it. I understand. I'll continue from where the first section ended, writing the middle third of the script about Scorpio women, maintaining the conversational tone and deep psychological insight established in the first section. This is why you'll often see Scorpio women emerge from devastating experiences stronger than they were before. Not because the experience didn't hurt them. It absolutely did. But because they refused to waste that pain. They transformed it into wisdom, into strength, into a deeper understanding of themselves and human nature. And that's a level of resilience that honestly most people never develop. Let me tell you about something I witnessed that perfectly illustrates this. I knew a Scorpio woman who went through a brutal divorce. Her husband had been having an affair for years, and when she found out, her entire world collapsed. Everything she thought she knew about her life, her marriage, her future, it all turned out to be a lie. Most people in that situation would be destroyed, and for a while, she was. But here's what happened next. Instead of just trying to move on and forget, she went deep. She started therapy. She examined every pattern in her life that had led her to that point. She looked at her childhood, her relationship with her parents, her own fears and insecurities that had made her ignore the red flags she now realized had been there all along. It took her 2 years. 2 years of intense inner work, of facing truths about herself that were painful to acknowledge. And when she emerged from that process, she wasn't just healed. She was fundamentally different. She had transformed her entire understanding of love, of relationships, of her own worth. And the next relationship she entered was completely different because she was completely different. That's emotional alchemy. That's the Scorpio superpower. Taking the lead of pain and turning it into the gold of wisdom. Now, the second secret about Scorpio women that makes them absolutely magnetic is their relationship with power. And this is where things get really complex because power is such a loaded concept. Especially when we're talking about women. Scorpio women have a natural relationship with power that's different from any other sign. They're not afraid of it. They don't apologize for it. They don't try to make themselves smaller to make other people comfortable. And in a world that still has complicated feelings about powerful women, this can make Scorpio women incredibly polarizing. Here's what I've noticed. When a Scorpio woman walks into a room, people feel it. There's this presence, this energy that's impossible to ignore. It's not loud or showy. In fact, Scorpio women often prefer to observe from the sidelines at first. But even in their silence, even in their stillness, there's this undeniable force. And this creates one of two reactions in people. Either they're drawn to it like a moth to a flame, fascinated and compelled by that power, or they're threatened by it and immediately try to diminish it, to put the Scorpio woman in her place, to make her less than she is. I think this is one of the biggest challenges Scorpio women face, because from a very young age, they're often told they're too much, too intense, too emotional, too demanding, too powerful, and the message they receive, either explicitly or implicitly, is that they need to tone it down, to be more palatable, to make themselves smaller so other people can feel bigger. But here's the thing about Scorpio women. They can't do that. Not for long anyway. Because dimming their light, suppressing their power, it's not just uncomfortable for them. It's actually painful. It goes against their fundamental nature. It's like asking a lion to pretend to be a house cat. They might be able to do it for a while, but eventually, that wild nature is going to break through. And when it does, when a Scorpio woman finally stops apologizing for her and fully steps into it, that's when she becomes truly unstoppable. That's when she moves from being someone who's reacting to the world to someone who's actively creating her reality. I want to talk about what this power actually looks like in practice, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions about it. Scorpio power isn't about dominating others or controlling situations through force. That's actually the shadow side, the wounded expression of this energy. True Scorpio power is much more subtle and much more effective. It's the power of presence. The ability to be so fully present, so completely in your body and in the moment, that you become a force of nature. When a Scorpio woman is fully present, she doesn't need to say much. Her energy speaks for her. People feel compelled to tell her the truth, to drop their masks, to show her who they really are. It's the power of focus. Scorpio women have this incredible ability to focus their attention like a laser beam. When they decide they want something, when they commit to a goal or a vision, they pursue it with an intensity that's honestly rare. They don't get distracted. They don't give up. They keep going until they achieve what they set out to do, or until they consciously decide to redirect their energy elsewhere. I've seen Scorpio women build businesses from nothing, transform their bodies, master complex skills, all through this power of focused intention. And what's fascinating is that they often do it quietly. They're not posting about it on social media every day. They're not seeking validation or approval. They're just doing the work, day after day after day, with this unwavering commitment. It's also the power of transformation. Scorpio women don't just change themselves. They have this ability to catalyze transformation in others. When you're in a relationship with a Scorpio woman, whether it's romantic, friendship, or professional, you will change. You can't stay the same. Her energy won't allow it. She'll challenge you, push you, hold up that mirror I talked about earlier, and force you to confront the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. This can be uncomfortable. Actually, it's almost always uncomfortable. But it's also incredibly valuable. Because how often do you meet someone who actually helps you grow? Who doesn't just accept you as you are but sees your potential and calls you toward it? Now, here's where we need to talk about the shadow side of this power dynamic. Because like I said, when Scorpio energy is operating from a wounded place, it can become destructive. And I think it's important to be honest about this, because understanding the shadow is part of understanding the whole picture. When a Scorpio woman feels threatened, when she's operating from fear or insecurity, that power can turn into control. She might use her emotional intelligence to manipulate rather than heal. She might use her intensity to intimidate rather than inspire. She might hold grudges, seek revenge, or use her knowledge of people's vulnerabilities against them. I've seen this happen. I've seen Scorpio women who've been hurt become absolutely ruthless in their desire to hurt back. And because they understand people so well, because they know exactly where the weak spots are, they can be devastatingly effective at causing pain when they want to. But here's what I want you to understand. This shadow behavior isn't the true nature of Scorpio energy. It's what happens when that energy is wounded, when it's been betrayed or violated or forced to suppress itself for too long. It's a defense mechanism, a way of trying to regain power when you feel powerless. The path for Scorpio women is learning to wield their power from a place of wholeness rather than woundedness. It's learning to use their intensity to create rather than destroy. It's learning that true power doesn't come from controlling others but from mastering yourself. And this brings me to the third secret about Scorpio women. And this one is absolutely crucial. Scorpio women have an unparalleled capacity for intimacy. Not just physical intimacy, though we'll get to that, but emotional, psychological, spiritual intimacy. The kind of intimacy that most people are terrified of. Here's what I mean by that. Most relationships operate on a surface level. People share the acceptable parts of themselves. The parts that make them look good. The parts that won't scare the other person away. They maintain boundaries, keep secrets, protect their vulnerabilities. And there's nothing wrong with that in casual relationships. But Scorpio women aren't interested in casual anything. When a Scorpio woman commits to someone, when she decides to let you in, she wants all of you. Not just the highlight reel. Not just the parts you're proud of. She wants to see your darkness, your fears, your shame, your wounds, and she wants to show you hers. This is what real intimacy means to a Scorpio woman. Complete transparency, total vulnerability, no masks, no games, no pretending. And this level of intimacy is incredibly rare. Because it requires both people to be willing to be seen completely. It requires trust at a level that most people never reach. It requires the courage to show someone the parts of yourself you've spent your whole life hiding. I remember talking to a Scorpio woman about this once. And she said something that really stuck with me. She said that for her, intimacy isn't about being close to someone. It's about being known by someone. Really known. In all your complexity, all your contradictions, all your messy humanity, and being loved anyway, not despite those things, but including those things. This is why Scorpio women often struggle in relationships. Because most people aren't ready for that level of intimacy. They say they want deep connection. But when a Scorpio woman actually offers it, when she starts peeling back the layers and inviting them to do the same, they panic. They retreat. They say she's too intense, too demanding, too much. But here's the truth. She's not too much. They're not enough. They're not ready. They're not willing to do the work that real intimacy requires. And Scorpio women would rather be alone than settle for surface-level connection. They'd rather have no relationship than a shallow one. This applies to all areas of life, not just romantic relationships. Scorpio women bring this same intensity to their friendships, their work relationships, even their relationship with themselves. They're not interested in small talk or superficial interactions. They want to go deep or they don't want to go at all. And this can make them seem standoffish or difficult to get to know. Because they're not going to open up to just anyone. They're selective about who they let into their inner world. They're protective of their energy and their emotional space. And they should be. Because what they're offering, that level of depth and authenticity, it's precious. It's not something to be given away lightly. Now, let's talk about the physical dimension of this intimacy, because this is where Scorpio women's reputation really precedes them. And yes, Scorpio women are known for being passionate, sexual, magnetic in that way. But I think the way this is usually talked about completely misses what's actually happening. Scorpio women aren't just physically passionate. They understand something about sexuality that most people never grasp. They understand that sex isn't separate from emotion, from psychology, from spirituality. For a Scorpio woman, physical intimacy is a gateway to complete union. It's not just about pleasure, though pleasure is definitely part of it. It's about merging, about breaking down the boundaries between self and other, about experiencing that ego death that comes from complete surrender. This is why casual sex often doesn't work for Scorpio women. Not because they're prudish or because they need commitment before they can be physical, but because sex without emotional depth feels empty to them. It's like eating food that has no nutritional value. It might satisfy a momentary craving, but it doesn't actually nourish you. When a Scorpio woman is with someone she's truly connected to, when there's that emotional and psychological intimacy we talked about, the physical intimacy becomes transcendent. It becomes a form of communication that goes beyond words. It becomes a way of knowing and being known at the deepest possible level. And this intensity, this depth, this complete presence in the physical experience, that's what makes Scorpio women so magnetic in this realm. It's not about technique or performance. It's about being so fully present, so completely surrendered to the experience, that you create this field of energy that's absolutely intoxicating. I think this is also why Scorpio women often have complicated relationships with their own sexuality. Because in a culture that often treats sex as casual, as recreational, as something separate from emotion and meaning, Scorpio women's approach can feel out of step. They might go through periods of being very sexually active, exploring and experimenting, trying to find that depth they're craving. Or they might withdraw completely, choosing celibacy over shallow encounters. But what they're always seeking, whether they're aware of it or not, is that complete union, that experience of intimacy so profound that it transforms you. And when they find it, when they find someone who can meet them at that level, it's unlike anything else. This brings me to the fourth secret about Scorpio women, and this one might be the most misunderstood of all. Scorpio women have an almost supernatural ability to see through deception. They can sense lies, half-truths, and hidden agendas from a mile away. And this isn't just intuition, though intuition plays a part. It's a combination of their deep psychological understanding, their attention to detail, and their willingness to look at what others prefer to ignore. I've watched this happen countless times. A Scorpio woman will meet someone, and within minutes, she'll have a read on them that's serially accurate. She'll pick up on the micro-expressions, the inconsistencies in their story, the energy behind their words, and she'll know, with absolute certainty, whether this person is being genuine or putting on a performance. This ability makes Scorpio women incredibly valuable in any situation that requires discernment. They're the ones you want on your team when you're making important decisions, when you're trying to figure out if someone is trustworthy, when you need to cut through the noise and get to the truth. They're human lie detectors. But more than that, they're truth seekers in a world that's often built on comfortable illusions. But this gift comes with a burden, because once you can see through people's masks, once you can perceive the gap between what people say and what they actually mean, it becomes very difficult to unsee it. Scorpio women often talk about feeling lonely in crowds, feeling isolated even when surrounded by people. And this is why they're seeing a level of reality that most people are actively avoiding. Imagine going through life being able to sense when people are lying to you, when they're using you out, when they're presenting a false version of themselves. Imagine being able to see people's hidden motivations, their unacknowledged fears, their secret resentments. It would be exhausting, wouldn't it? And it would make it very hard to trust people, to let your guard down, to believe that anyone is being genuine. This is the reality Scorpio women live with every day, and it's why they're so selective about who they let close. Because they need to find people who are actually real, who aren't hiding behind masks, who have the courage to be authentic even when it's uncomfortable. And those people are rare. I want to talk about what happens when a Scorpio woman catches you in a lie, because this is important. When you lie to a Scorpio woman, even a small lie, even a lie of omission, she knows. She might not call you out on it immediately. In fact, she probably won't. She'll file that information away, and she'll watch. She'll give you chances to come clean. To be honest, to show her that you're capable of truth. But if you continue to lie, if you double down on the deception, something shifts. The trust that was there, even if it was tentative, it evaporates, and once a Scorpio woman stops trusting you, it's almost impossible to get that trust back. Not because she's unforgiving, but because she's seen who you really are. She's seen that you're willing to lie to her, to manipulate her, to prioritize your comfort over honesty, and she can't unsee that. This is where Scorpio women get their reputation for being unforgiving, for holding grudges, for cutting people off completely. But it's not about revenge or punishment. It's about self-preservation. Once they know you're not trustworthy, once they've seen that you're willing to deceive them, they can't maintain the intimacy that's so essential to them. And rather than stay in a relationship where they have to constantly guard themselves, where they can't fully trust, they choose to walk away. And when a Scorpio woman walks away, she walks away completely. This is another aspect of their all or nothing nature. They don't do halfway. They don't do casual friendship with someone who betrayed them. They don't do cordial coexistence with someone who violated their trust. They cut the cord completely and they don't look back. This can seem harsh to people who are used to maintaining relationships even after trust has been broken, who believe in giving endless second chances, who think that forgiveness means continuing the relationship. But Scorpio women understand something crucial. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone for hurting you and still choose not to have them in your life. You can release the anger and resentment and still maintain your boundaries. Now, the fifth secret about Scorpio women is their relationship with transformation and rebirth, and this goes beyond the personal transformation we talked about earlier. This is about their role as catalysts for transformation in the world around them. Scorpio women are change agents. They're the ones who aren't afraid to challenge the status quo, to question authority, to point out the emperor has no clothes. They're the ones who will speak uncomfortable truths, who will shine light into dark corners, who will refuse to participate in collective denial. This makes them incredibly important in any system or organization or relationship, because systems need people who are willing to challenge them, who will point out what's not working, who will push for evolution and growth. Without that challenging energy, systems stagnate. They become rigid and brittle and eventually they collapse. But being that person, being the one who challenges and questions and pushes for change, it's not an easy role. It often makes you unpopular. People don't like having their comfortable illusions disrupted. They don't like being forced to look at uncomfortable truths. And they often shoot the messenger rather than hear the message. Scorpio women know this. They've experienced it their whole lives. But they do it anyway, because they can't not do it. When they see something that's wrong, something that's unjust, something that's causing harm, they can't just stay silent and go along with it. Their integrity won't allow it. I've seen Scorpio women lose jobs, lose friendships, lose opportunities because they refused to compromise their truth, because they called out corruption or abuse or dysfunction when everyone else was pretending not to see it. And yes, there's often a cost to that kind of courage, but there's also a cost to staying silent, to compromising your integrity, to participating in systems that violate your values. And for Scorpio women, that cost is too high. This transformative energy also shows up in how Scorpio women approach their own lives. They're not interested in incremental change or surface-level improvements. When they decide to change something, they go all the way. They burn it down and rebuild from the ground up. I've watched Scorpio women completely reinvent themselves multiple times throughout their lives. They'll be in one career for years, become successful at it, and then suddenly pivot to something completely different. They'll end a long-term relationship that looks perfect from the outside because they know it's not serving their growth anymore. They'll move to a new city, change their entire social circle, transform their lifestyle, And each time they do this, they're not running away from something. They're running toward their next evolution. They're answering a call from their soul that says it's time to shed this skin and grow a new one. And they have the courage to do it even when it means leaving behind security, comfort, and the known. This is the phoenix energy that Scorpio is famous for, the ability to die and be reborn, over and over again, and each time they go through this process, they emerge stronger, wiser, more aligned with their true nature. But I want to be clear about something. This process of death and rebirth, it's not easy, it's not glamorous. The phoenix doesn't just burst into flames and immediately rise from the ashes. There's a period in between where everything is ash, where you're in the void, in the darkness, not knowing who you are anymore or what comes next. Scorpio women spend a lot of time in that void, and it's terrifying, it's disorienting. It requires an enormous amount of faith to stay in that space of not knowing, to trust that something new will emerge even when you can't see it yet. This is why Scorpio women often seem to disappear for periods of time. They'll withdraw from social life, from relationships, from their normal activities, and people worry about them or judge them or think something's wrong. But what's actually happening is they're in their cocoon. They're in that transformative space where the caterpillar dissolves into goo before it becomes a butterfly. And when they emerge, when they come back, they're different, fundamentally different. And the people in their lives have to adjust to this new version, this new iteration. Some people can't handle it. They want the old version back. They're uncomfortable with the change. And those people usually fall away during these transformation cycles. But the people who can embrace the Scorpio woman's evolution, who can love her through her deaths and rebirths, who can witness her transformation without trying to stop it or control it, those people become part of her inner circle. Those are the relationships that last. Now, I want to talk about something that I think is crucial for understanding Scorpio women, and that's their relationship with vulnerability. Because there's this misconception that Scorpio women are invulnerable, that they're so strong and powerful that nothing can hurt them. And that's absolutely not true. Scorpio women feel everything deeply. They're incredibly sensitive, incredibly vulnerable. The difference is that they've learned to transmute that vulnerability into strength. They've learned to feel the pain fully and then use it as fuel for transformation. But make no mistake, they feel it. Every betrayal, every rejection, every loss. It cuts them deeply. And because they love so intensely, because they commit so completely, when things end or when they're hurt, the pain is proportional to the depth of their investment. I think this is important to understand because it humanizes Scorpio women in a way that the typical descriptions don't. Yes, they're powerful. They're intense. Yes, they can be intimidating. But they're also deeply feeling, deeply caring, deeply vulnerable human beings who just learned to carry their vulnerability with strength. And this is actually what makes them so magnetic. It's not that they're invulnerable. It's that they're willing to be